Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. We've got another review for you today from the Tyranid Codex. Now before getting into this review, do me a huge favour and like the video and subscribe to the channel. New channels like this need a massive push on the algorithm, so do me a huge favour and please subscribe down below. Right, so for today's video we're going to be talking about the Gargoyles, which are of course a troop selection within the Tyranid Codex. Now if you were to purchase a box of these, you're going to get 10 in a box. It was £24 in the UK, $38 in the USA. Now this increased from the 6th of March. At the time of filming this, I'm not quite at the 6th of March yet, so I haven't got the exact prices for you. But at this current time, £24 UK, $38 in the US. Right, let's get on to the Gargoyles datasheet to begin with. So we've already mentioned they're a troop option. You could take between 10 and 20 of these Gargoyle models at 8 points a go. So a minimum cost for you is going to be 80 points, and as a maximum it's going to be 160, which I think is fairly cheap. Now as for the actual profile, they've got a movement of 12 inches, which is really nice for a troop selection anyway. Weapon skill 4+, as well as the ballistic skill. The strength and toughness is 3, wounds is 1, attacks is 1, leadership 5 and a 6+ armor save. Now only 1 wound and toughness 3 makes them quite squishy, but that isn't really their job, but we'll get into that as we go through the video. Now as for their actual weaponry, they're all equipped with the Flesh Borers, which are weapons at an 18-inch range. They're Assault 1, Strength 5, -1 AP and 1 damage. So pretty decent in terms of the strength department, to be honest with you. Strength 5, when you could potentially have 20 of these. You can even advance with them as well with the Assault weaponry, although it will be at a -1 to hit penalty, so you will be actually hitting on a 5+ there rather than a 4+. But you do have the option there, and -1 AP isn't too bad either. So not the worst in terms of weaponry there, and again that's not really what they're about, but it is a nice bonus to have. Moving further down into the datasheet, let's go through some of the keywords of note. They're an infantry, which is very key for your secondary objectives. That's something we will definitely talk about in this video. They can fly, which is very nice, especially with that 12-inch movement. They are core, and they've got the endless multitude keyword. In fact, we need to go back to the ability section. We've got the swarming masses ability. So when they're in melee, not only do they fight within engagement range, but they can also fight within 2.5 inches away from enemy models. So effectively it's the second line of your unit can still fight as if they were in engagement range, which is pretty nice on a melee unit. Now this isn't really a melee unit. We do have better options in the melee department. This isn't one of them, but they do have that added option if needed. So let's get straight into the Hive Fleets. What are the Hive Fleets that are going to work best with Gargoyles? The first one I want to mention is the Kraken Hive Fleet. Now the Hive Fleet adaptation, quest in tendrils, okay, you get a bit of extra AP on the charge. I'm not really looking at that one, to be honest with you. I don't really want to be charging with these things. They've only got 1 attack at strength 3. That's not really their thing, in my opinion, but the adaptive is quite useful here. When you're advancing with it and not using the opportunist advanced stratagem or the bounding advanced stratagem, do not make an advanced roll. Instead, you're going to be adding D3 + 3 to the move characteristics. On average, you're going to add 5 to your movement characteristics with an advanced roll. That's going to make them pretty rapid. Now what you could actually do if you didn't want to take that, you could remove the adaptive part of the Hive Fleet and select one of the Hunt biomorphologies or one of the Feed biomorphologies. Now from the Hunt biomorphologies, there's a couple of decent options for Gargoyles. The first one is Heightened Reflexes, so they're eligible to fall back and still fire, although it will be at a -1 to hit penalty, but it is better than not firing at all, I guess. Or the second option that I would like to talk about today is the Synaptic Goading. At the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, an endless multitude units with this adaptation that have started wholly within your deployment zone can make a normal move up to 6 inches, so effectively a 6-inch pre-game move. That's going to get them up the battlefield along with their 12-inch movement. Maybe if you are advancing with them as well, that could be an additional potential 6 inches on top of that too. Now from the Feed biomorphologies, there's one option I would select from here, the Ecoskeleton Stabilization, which allows them to advance and still fire their assault weapons without any -1 to hit penalty, so they're still hitting on a 4+ with their ballistic skill rather than a 5+. Now the 2 other bullet points aren't really relevant for the Gargoyles, it's just mainly the first bullet point there. But for the rest of your army, I suppose, it could be quite handy. Now if you were to look at that opportunistic advanced stratagem, which is only available to Kraken units, this for me is the main key reason why I'd in fact use Kraken with Gargoyles. So in the movement phase, each time that unit advances, do not make an advance roll, instead add 8 inches to the movement. So whether you're taking the previous adaptation with the Kraken Hive Fleet or not, the one that was D3 + 3, or whether you swapped it out for the Hunt or Feed biomorphologies, either way you could still actually use this stratagem to get that 8-inch advanced move, so 12 inches for normal movement, 8 inches on the advanced move. That's 20 inches in a single turn. And also you're going to be not incurring that -1 to hit penalty with the assault weapons as well, so you're actually getting 2 decent buffs there from one single stratagem. 20-inch movement, and you can still fire at full ballistic skill. Nice. Now another Hive Fleet I want to mention today is the Leviathan Hive Fleet. So for the second bullet point in particular, you can't wound them on less than a 3+, so strength 6 weaponry will still require a 3 in order to wound them. Now they will need to be within synaptic link range in order to use this ability, which is okay I guess. You also get to re-roll a single hit when you're resolving your shooting attacks or fighting attacks. Now I would swap that one out. Again, I'd go into the feed biomorphologies and get that one that allows you to advance with the assault weapons. That's probably what I would do if I was taking Leviathan. As for the Gorgon Hive Fleet, this one is also a very good one for gargoyles. They're always wounding on a 4+ against non-vehicles and non-titanic units, which is pretty good, especially when you've got a lot of them, because it doesn't mention anything about monsters. So if you're firing 20 of these shots at a strength 5 against a toughness 7 monster perhaps, you're still wounding on a 4+. Now you're going to be able to get a reroll to your wound rolls when you're shooting or fighting as well. And again, if you want to swap this out with the feed biomorphologies, you've got that option too. The last one I want to talk about is the Kronos Hive Fleet. This is the Shooty Hive Fleet in fact, adding 4-inch range to your characteristics so that they're firing at 22 inches rather than 18 inches. And also at half range you're going to get an extra bit of AP on top of that. And again, if you want to get rid of that for the Ecoskeleton stabilization, you've got the option there. Now as for some stratagems that are available to the gargoyles, ones of note anyway, Scorch Bugs is a pretty decent one, 1 CP, you're adding 6 inches to the range characteristics, which will put it to 24 inches, and also you're adding 1 to the strength characteristic of Flesh Borer weapons, which they've of course got. So that now means that they're going to be strength 6 rather than strength 5, so if you are going up against other light infantry models that are toughness 3, you're only winning them on a 2+. Pretty good. Some strategic ploy stratagems that are available to the gargoyles, Endless Swarm for 1 command point, because they've got the Endless Multitude keyword. You can be bringing back D3+3 destroyed models in your command phase, which is pretty decent, an average of 5 models coming back there. That's going to be 40 points each time on average. Oh, the other one is Encircle the Prey for 1 command point. This is going to be used because they've got the fly keyword. You can put them into reinforcements, then in the next movement phase you can bring them out more than 9 inches away from enemy models. This can potentially get you to better locations on the battlefield, but if you are playing an incursion mission that's only 1k, you probably don't need this because they're already quick enough. They're going to get across the battlefield, no problems. So let's talk about the secondary objectives that the gargoyles are going to be pretty useful for. This is the main reason for taking gargoyles in my opinion. So first of all, RBD or retrieve battlefield data. Because they've got the infantry keyword, they can be doing this quite easily because of their speed. On top of that, they can be coming out of strategic reserves if you wanted to, or you could even put them into reserves with that stratagem if you wanted to, just to save them for a late game. But yeah, they can do retrieve battlefield data, not a problem. Very similar with raise the banners, with objectives secured, and again their speed as well as the fly keyword, they could be getting onto objectives that are in the no man's land area perhaps, or even further than that because they've got that speed. Engage in all fronts as well as behind enemy lines, very similar reasons, they've got the speed, not so much for the resiliency, but bear in mind you do score this within your own turn. So that resiliency isn't as important, but you are quite likely to lose the unit. And of course the Spore Node's secondary objective, which is the Tyranids specific one, on a Hive Tendril troop unit. They can do the action that's within 6 inches of your opponent's deployment zone and not within 6 inches of any other spore nodes. This one's fairly easy to do and you score 4 victory points every time you do so. Definitely worth looking at that one, and again, use strategic reserves to your advantage. Right, so let's get on to the summary for the gargoyle, starting with the pros. Movement of 12 inches with fly, very nice. They are core, they've got the options of units of up to 20 models, they've got objectives secured because they are troops, they're cheap at only 8 points per model, and they're fantastic for secondary objectives. They're also great for stealing primary objectives, again with objectives secured, and they've got a reasonable amount of range attack. Strength 5, -1 AP, 1 damage, it's not too bad, especially in numbers. And finally, they've got the Swarming Masses ability. I don't tend to use them in melee, but maybe you will. As for the cons, they're only toughness 3, so they're quite squishy with a 6+ armor save on top of that. They're not that great in melee in my opinion. Again, if you play differently, that's up to you. The speed of them could potentially take them out of synapse, which means they could potentially fail their morale test because they've only got a leadership value of a 5. They've got no deep strike option even though they've got wings, and there's no options of toxin sacs or adrenal glands. So let's get on to the Planet 40k rating today for the gargoyles. I'm going to be going with the Planet 40k rating of 4 stars. So guys, that is the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.